Hey everybody, happy Tuesday night, week 15, 16, somewhere in the middle of all this insanity. And I have something really important to talk about tonight. We did a blog recently about the evil ruler, and is the evil ruler stealing your mind? And we got all sorts of hate mail. And I'm like, oh no. And they thought I was talking about the president. Wasn't talking about the president. But it just shows how people's nerves are frayed and they're just on edge. And if you say anything that can be construed in a political way, in a wrong way, people they're just too sensitive. So in my new book, The End of Mental Illness, there's a whole section on the evil ruler. And what I imagined in the book is that if I was an evil ruler and I wanted to create mental illness in America, what would I do? And there are actually 60 plus strategies, evil ruler strategies that are going on around us if you just take the time to look. And in addition to the evil ruler strategies, I also imagined if I was a good ruler, what would I do to decrease the incidence of mental illness in America? Now, purposefully, on this page, on any of the Amen Clinics or BrainMD pages, we do not take political positions. And I know that irritates some people, but quite honestly, I don't care. You can be a Republican, you can be a Democrat, you can be an independent, you can not care. I want to help you. We are not red, we're not blue. We often say we're red, white, and blue. And so if you want to have that fight, it's just not going to be with me on a professional page. I've been... 2008, I wrote an op-ed piece for the Los Angeles Times on whether or not we should scan presidential candidates. Of course you should. Do you want your president to have nuclear codes and not have a healthy brain? Now, we're not going in that direction, and that's just not the point of the whole evil ruler discussion. And so I want to just read a little bit about the evil ruler from The End of Mental Illness. So to summarize the book, I want you to imagine both an evil and good ruler. An evil ruler's top priority is to create and perpetuate mental illness. How would he or she do it? The evil ruler would turn the four circles against us, remember, biological, psychological, social, and spiritual, and create policies and promote behaviors guaranteed to increase mental illness. So on the other hand, the good ruler who is in charge, what would he or she do to end mental illness? The good ruler would encourage healthy strategies in each of those four circles. So in the biological circle, if I was an evil ruler, I'd perpetuate the biological warfare in America by keeping 88% of the population metabolically unhealthy. Guess what? 88% of the population in America is metabolically unhealthy. So think of your weight, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, all those things that go to create health. If I was a benevolent ruler, I'd counteract biological warfare waged on our society by creating a nationwide program for people to fall in love with their brains. And I've been advocating it. I've actually been to the White House, been advocating creating a nationwide brain health program taught in schools, churches, businesses, senior centers, anywhere people gather. From a psychological perspective, if I was an evil ruler and I wanted to hurt my subjects, I'd have people ignore past emotional traumas created by alcoholic or drug abusing parents. I would not address the current traumas caused by stay-at-home orders. Now, some of them were essential. That's not a political statement, but I have to tell you, the social isolation has skyrocketed depression, has skyrocketed suicidal ideation and suicidal behaviors. And we need to talk about it. USA Today had an article, like we have Dr. Fauci for infections, we need a czar, someone we can look to for mental health guidance, or what I'd rather call it, brain health guidance. If I was a good ruler, I'd limit social media so people cannot endlessly compare themselves to others, never feeling like they're enough. If I was an evil ruler, I would model undisciplined negative thinking patterns and never teach their subjects how to eliminate the ants that infest their mind. And I tell you, I have a clinic right outside of Washington, D.C. But I love Washington, D.C. I love my clinic in Reston, Virginia. I get worn out by the political infighting. And if you just listen, Democrat, Republican, whoever, the thinking is not clear. It's not logical. It's about finding the other person's fault and capitalizing on them. Really bad thinking patterns, and it happens on both sides. If I was a good ruler, I'd teach people how to kill the ants. Whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking. Write down what you're thinking and then ask yourself, is it true? Can I absolutely know if it's true? If I was an evil ruler, I'd have people constantly check their news feeds. Because news, what I've learned, is not the news. News has been created to perpetuate clicks. News has been created by the advertising companies to keep more eyeballs. And you don't do that with news. You do it with breaking news, right? Have you seen, every time they come back from a pharmaceutical drug ad break, breaking news was something they've been talking about for days. Breaking news is always there. And a friend of mine actually did an internship at the Washington Post. And she said they purposefully wrote headlines, not about what was actually in the article, but what would drive the most eyeballs and the most clicks. Turn it off. I tell people, 20 minutes a day learn what's happening, and then turn it off and go about your day. If I was an evil ruler, I'd create the cable news networks that are screaming at you, that are looking for what's wrong about the other side. And why is the cable networks blue or red? I mean, it's just, how can you watch? And I want you to limit it. I have seen a direct correlation to the amount of news you watch and your level of anxiety. You have to be very careful. If I was a good ruler, I would actually require all therapists to have brain health training. Isn't that insane? You can go to someone and talk about your mind, and no one ever talks about the organ, your brain, that runs your mind. Think of it like hardware and software. The hardware is the physical functioning of your brain, and the software is how you program it. Both of them are important, but can you run software programs on people who have hardware problems? Not very effectively. And so in my mind, get your brain right, and then getting your mind right will be so much easier. I love people from Hong Kong and Florida and Michigan and Maryland and DC, Brazil. I'm so honored that you would tune in. If I was an evil ruler, I would cause strife among my people, subjecting them to chronic stress that separates them from each other so that the ruler can retain more power. Does that sound familiar to anyone? We are pitting ourselves against each other, and I'm just not okay with that. And I hear it on my team sometimes, and you can have blue opinions or you can have red opinions, but not when they come between people who care about each other, who are on the same mission. And in an election year, I've just seen the rhetoric go up, the emotions go up, add stay-at-home orders, add the killing of George Floyd, and then the protests and the riots. So many people's anxiety is just out of control. And we need to think about the things we have in common rather than the things that separate us. And I was talking to one of my patients who was half black and half white. And it was always a conflict growing up. And we were talking about the police situation. No question, they're bad police officers. No question, there's awesome police officers. I've told you here, I've been working with the Newport Beach Police Department, and I love them. There are so many just good, decent, wonderful human beings. And oh, by the way, they're bad moms. And they're bad dads. Are we going to defund mothers? We're going to defund fathers? Like logical, rational thinking. Where I live, if somebody's breaking into my house, I hope, the 911 operators who really first responders, right? The level of trauma in 911 responders is intense. That we need to pray for them, love them, appreciate them, support them. I want them paying attention, and I don't want them chronically stressed, and so they're not sleeping. They're bad psychiatrists. There's bad anything you can think of in life, but it doesn't mean we get rid of moms or we get rid of dads or we get rid of psychiatrists. It just means we help them be better. So, I know I sound like I'm preaching, but with my last name, I can do it. You imagine growing up with the last name of Amen? I was thinking about being a priest until I realized I'd be called Father Amen, and I'm like, oh, nobody believed that. Anyways, I digress. If I was a good ruler, I would advocate for stress management classes in schools and businesses. Decreasing everyday stress lowers inflammation, improves your immune system. And those of you who follow me know I talk repeatedly, your best defense against COVID-19 is your immune system and your brain, because you're going to make good decisions, not bad decisions. And good decisions are more likely to keep you alive for a long time. So I want you to have some anxiety. The don't worry, be happy people, the people with no anxiety, they die early from accidents or preventable illnesses. So you need a little bit of anxiety. Oh, I just went into a store tonight, I wore a mask, I socially distanced, I'm not giving energy to COVID-19. But too much anxiety actually can damage your immune system. So we have to be thoughtful, we have to be careful. If I was an evil ruler, now I'm going to get some hate here, I'd create a society where recreational marijuana dispensaries are in every corner and alcohol is promoted as a health food. And examples of evil ruler entrepreneurial genius. Girl Scouts are now setting up outside pot dispensaries. In 2014, a 13-year-old Girl Scout sold 177 boxes of Samoas, Tagalongs, and Thin Mints outside a San Francisco pot dispensary. After being there just a short time, she had to call for help to be restocked. In 2018, not to be outdone, a 9-year-old Girl Scout sold 300 boxes of the tasty treats outside a San Diego pot dispensary in about 6 hours. Smarter still, inside the pot dispensary, they're offering Girl Scout THC peanut butter cookies. Now, that is an evil ruler strategy. I'm actually not a fan of getting Girl Scouts to sell addictive substances like sugar, and that's how they fund themselves. My wife says, oh, don't say that. The Girl Scouts will hate you. And I'm just speaking my truth. Sugar is addictive. We need to be careful with its ingestion, because the more you use, the more you will want to use. If I was a good ruler, I'd provide classes on decision-making skills so we would make better life decisions and be less stressed. The fastest way to decrease stress is to stop making bad decisions. The fastest way to decrease stress is stop screwing up with the decisions you make. And decisions are better when you have clear goals. All of my patients, I was working with one of my patients today on an exercise called the one-page miracle. On one piece of paper, write down what you want. Relationships, work, money, physical, emotional, spiritual health. What do you want? Write it down. And then ask yourself, does my behavior get me what I want? And 3 words, does it fit? Does it fit? If I say this to my wife, does it fit the goals I have? If I eat this tonight, does it fit the goals I have for my belly? Does it fit? So, have clear goals, sleep more than 7 hours. Your decision may go way up when you sleep. Avoid low blood sugar states. So have protein and healthy fat at every meal, and eliminate the ants when they attack. If I was an evil ruler, I'd increase the pressure to stay connected to your phone and social media for work and relationships, not allowing time for sleep and self-care. If I was a good ruler, I would help people foster deep connections to the past, to the future, and to the planet. Your behavior is not just about you. Your behavior literally is about generations of you. I was talking to a 19-year-old girl today, and we were talking about, it's not just about you. Inside your body, that you have your ovaries, and in your ovaries are all the eggs you will ever have that go about making your children. And what happens to you throughout your life is turning on or off certain genes, making those eggs healthy or not so healthy. So your behavior as a teenager, your behavior as a young adult is impacting the next generation and the next generation of that. Because when a mother has a little girl inside her womb, her ovaries are developing, so she's actually carrying the seeds for her grandbabies and her great-grandbabies. So think about that. Let your mind spin on that for a bit. And it's like, quite frankly, it's just not about us. It's about generations of us. If I was an evil ruler, I would tell my subjects not to exercise because that decreases blood flow to the brain. If I was an evil ruler, I'd pass out video game consults and online streaming services to all subjects, stealing their time and attention so they can't find time to exercise. If I was a good ruler, I'd put exercise everywhere instead of all these Zoom meetings where you're sitting on your butt all day long. I'd have walking meetings. So I do 2 huddles every morning. And the huddles, some people are on Zoom looking at each other. I have them on my phone. I am walking. So I probably get 6,000, 7,000 steps just during my huddles in the morning, and I am getting 2 things done at once. And oh, by the way, after you walk for about 10 minutes, you're nicer. You are more flexible. You have serotonin coming into your brain, meaning you're less likely to get hung up on that thought that makes you worried. If I was an evil ruler, I'd let people watch as many scary movies as they want or play violent video games because those things wear out your pleasure centers. If I was an evil ruler, I'd put on the COVID-19. Somebody's asking me, what I eat and drink today. I try to do intermittent fasting. So I had dinner 6 o'clock tonight. I probably won't eat again until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning or 11 o'clock. And I often will have a couple of eggs and a cup of frozen blueberries, or I may make a shake. BrainMD makes delicious, sugar-free, right? No crap in any BrainMD product. I always say there are no brand violations, but we have chocolate and vanilla protein powder, so 20 grams of protein, clean, it's plant protein, it's delicious. I'll take that, it's 120 calories. I'll put in some greens, kale, spinach, some frozen blueberries or frozen cherries, and the whole thing's like 220 calories. So the eggs and blueberries, less than 300 calories. The shakes all alternate. Or I may cut an avocado in half, put an egg in it, put it in the toaster oven for 10 minutes. Delicious. And then for lunch, I usually have a salad with protein, and dinner I'll have a protein and as many vegetables as I can. Have a little bit of chocolate. Brain MD makes Brain and Love bars, Brain on Joy bars, sugar-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, but delicious chocolate. I'm a huge fan of chocolate. All right. Anyways, in the end of mental illness, there are dozens of evil ruler strategies. So for all the haters that thought I was talking about the president, I wasn't. I mean, I'm actually on the Mental Health Leaders of Faith Task Force and have been to the White House. Yes, I want the president to be healthier and, not get 4 hours of sleep and not tweet in the middle of the night. Anytime you do anything when you're sleep deprived, it's not going to come out right. But I always say, I'm not red or blue. I want to help you no matter what you believe. That my wife is a neurosurgical ICU nurse, and she talks about this time where a gang member shot a police officer, and he shot him in return, and they both ended up on the same ward at Loma Linda. And she said, whether you're the policeman or the gang member, you both have families, you both bleed red, and your families grieve the same way. One other thing. A long time ago, I learned the number one self-defeating behavior. I wrote a book a long time ago called The Sabotage Factor, basically how to get out of your own way. And I was just looking at my patients, seeing how they would mess themselves up in their lives. And the number one way you ruin your life, the number one way you ruin your life is you blame other people for how your life is turning out. Because when you blame other people, you blame the Democrats, you blame the Republicans, you blame white people, you blame black people, you blame Hispanic people. Whenever you blame someone for the problems in your life, you become a victim, you become powerless, and you can't change anything. And I never want to be a victim. I never want to raise children who have a victim mindset. That is just so pervasive now, and it's so toxic for your mind. Now, I may get hate mail. It's like, no, we have to blame, China. You have to blame China. You have to blame Iran. You have to blame somebody. Let's stop that. And let's go, what is it I can do today to make my relationships better? What is it I can do today to make my brain better? I have this, whenever I see patients and they're having problems in their relationships with their parents or with their spouse, one of my first questions is always, what do you do that makes them crazy? Nothing. It's their fault. And I'm like, come on. What do you do that upsets them? And then, after they sort of break through the denial, they'll give me the list, what they do that upsets their parents or their partner. And why do I do that? Because once I get them to really admit their role in it, I then go, what do you do that makes them smile? What do you do that makes them happy? What do you do? Because if you can stay in that position, you're a powerful person. And responsibility is never about blame. It's always about your ability to respond to whatever situation you're in. You're going to survive the pandemic so much better than other people if you feel like you have some control. If you can manage through this, even during times of loss. I lost my dad 7 weeks ago today. And I could have blamed myself, I could have blamed the doctors, I could have blamed society, it's just easy, but it's so toxic. Let us all commit to stop blaming other people and start asking, what can I do today that will make the biggest difference in the lives of people I care about? All right, I hope you have a great night. Don't let the evil ruler steal your mind.